Coming to Gonzaga for game day, it's been a long time coming. Just what are your thoughts? It's obviously a huge game for the WCC regular season title on the line. Just your thoughts overall on coming to Spokane for this one.
Well, I'm primarily here as almost a public service announcement for the right way to pronounce Gonzaga. That there's been a national issue of it being called Gonzaga, and I think it's pretty easily remedied. I mean, if it were Gonzaga, they'd be the Zogs, and they're the Zags. So if we can get that done, we love coming here. Gonzaga is one of the premier programs in all of basketball and all of sports. In the last 20 years, what's been accomplished here is really mind-boggling. And for those who tend to, kind of try to diminish the rate of success by saying, well, it's the West Coast Conference or something like that that's dismissive. All you have to do is look at the NCAA tournament success that's validated what they've done. They're not. You can't argue with their non-conference record. They play a murderer's row, and then you go into the tournament and the tremendous success that Gonzaga's had. It's one of the great stories, I think, not only in basketball but in sports. So it's a thrill to be here, to watch one of the great coaches work, and then to be a part of the St. Mary's Gonzaga rivalry, which is the Duke Carolina of the West Coast Conference. It's a blast.
Were you here the last time game day was here?
Yeah, I've been to every game day. They make me go.
Okay. What's it like to be back?
Yeah, I think the last one was 2009,
Right.
and I mean, this is in a lot of ways I think will be better. The only downside is it's 8 degrees outside, so I had to bring every stitch of warm clothing I have. But I've come to Gonzaga and the Spokane area a lot over the years, especially for Mark and Marcy's Coaches vs. Cancer event every summer. So it's a joy to be here. The people are so great, and it doesn't matter. Usually it's win, but win or lose. For Gonzaga, it's just the people are just so nice, and everybody keeps everything in the right perspective all the time. It's great.
You have a go-to food spot when you come here to visit?
I've spent way too much time at Jack and Dan's, but I've kind of hunkered down a little bit in the Davenport. Like there's one condition that I have on travel when we come to Spokane is if we don't stay in the Davenport, I'm not going. And I'm a big Davenport fan. That heavenly bed thing is not just a catchy phrase. It actually applies. But yeah, it's in the downtown area. There are places to eat and walk around. It's just a wonderful place.
Drew Timmy's vocalized on his podcast that he's been trying to get on the 94 feet with you. Are you going to try to make that happen this week?
We are going to make it happen. That Drew's incessant whining has worked, and he's gotten his agent involved. So it's been something that's been quite uncomfortable, really. I've never really had anybody whine and cry like that, but we decided to go ahead and do it to sort of placate his hurt feelings over not being featured enough, because it's clear that Drew Timmy just doesn't get enough coverage. So we decided to go ahead and do it. So if any of you have any questions that I can ask him, I don't want it to be all about his 50 different mustache styles over his career. I'm open to suggestions.
Talk crap about the Cowboys. There you go.
Yeah, well, that'll be easy to do.
You talked about the West Coast Conference. It's really come along. It was kind of first Gonzaga, and then St. Mary's came along, and now you have more teams coming along. Just where do you think this conference, could end up if it keeps on this upward trend?
Well, Gonzaga's had a lot to do with the upgrade in play over the years. That you're going to have to get more competitive if you want to beat Gonzaga and beat St. Mary's. So you have to give Mark Few and Randy Bennett a lot of credit for that. But I think the fact that St. Mary's and Gonzaga have been so dominant, if you will, as far as results, the games are close and competitive, but the results have skewed to Gonzaga and St. Mary's dominating the league. I think people tend not to give the credit that's due, because every time Gonzaga plays on the road, it's a storm the court game. If you lose, the court's going to get stormed. And those are really hard games to win. And like that game earlier this year against BYU, when Strother hits that shot for them to win, like that's a phenomenal win. And it was met by, nationally maybe by a few yawns that, okay, Gonzaga won again. It's only when Gonzaga loses that, and Loyola Marymount didn't get any credit for it. Like, they don't get any credit for playing well. So what's wrong with Gonzaga? And that's just sort of our media stuff that we do. But the league is really good. It's really competitive. And the fact that you've got two teams that are ranked in the nationally in the top 25 and are real threats to do damage in the tournament and be competitive for a championship speaks really well of the league.
What does it say about Coach Few, not just to build this program into what it has become, but not to leave and to stay here and kind of see it to the end?
Mark Few is one of the best people that I know in basketball or in any walk. And over the last 20 years, he's so open, has been such a good friend to so many of us. There have been times when I think a lot of us were thinking, hey, if when an opportunity opened to go somewhere else, you can win a championship there. And Mark's immediate response was, I think we're going to championship at Gonzaga. And I think he might have been among the only ones, he and his staff, that really believed that. And he proved it. Like, not only can they were right there to do it on multiple occasions. So his vision of what Gonzaga was and could be over the years, like, I don't think he stayed here just out of loyalty to the program or the fact that his family's so happy here. I know those were big factors. But I also think the belief, the steadfast belief that this is a championship level program, whether they were in this league or any league, other people didn't share that, and he made believers out of everybody, and he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Where do you see the college basketball landscape changing in the next decade here? I know you see all these conference realignment talks, and there's constant rumors of the tournament expanding even further. Where do you see it going down the line?
It's only going to get bigger. I just don't see a multi-billion-dollar entertainment industry contracting and deciding to gain perspective and get smaller. It's not going to happen. So this is going to get bigger. And I view each of these, at least major conferences, as just mini NBAs and NFLs. They're all market competitors against one another. Now that the players are able to be compensated in some way, that's not going to stop. At some point in the future, I think the players will be simply paid by the university and signed to contracts as you would a coach or an administrator. So that's going to be part of the future. And I think that's going to be overall a really good thing. And it's something that is going to spread talent out, not concentrate it. And I think we've seen that just in the year and a half or 2 years of NIL. But the game is healthy. I think we could make some changes that, on the court that made the game prettier to watch and to play. I think the game skews now toward the defense, and it's more of a smash mouth game. And that's happened probably over the last 5 years. 10 years ago, we had reached historic lows in scoring, and that was remedied for a period of time, but it's gotten back to that a little bit. I think we could make some changes there, but college basketball is not going anywhere. It's healthy and it's a great game. But I think it could be improved upon, and I hopefully we'll see that. But we're talking about a relative thing. It's healthy and in great shape.
Will the NBA G League present a challenge to the NCAA?
Yes, I mean the G League, Overtime Elite, other players have other options now, not only to make money but to showcase their ability level. So it's a more competitive landscape for the top players than it's ever been, and that's important. When you don't have access to players that are going to be, lottery picks, it definitely affects the product. But I don't think it's anything that's going to be a killer to the game. But it's certainly, and I think now the players can be compensated in college. It makes college a more competitive and viable option for players. And for those of us, and I'm one of them, that thinks that college is the best place for a young adult to be. The fact that you have players staying longer now in part because they can make money, that's a net positive for everybody. It's better for the school. They retain players and retain their services, and it's better for the player because they're gaining more education, which we all say we think is the best thing for them. So to me, that's a win-win.
What do you think? What do you think about the development of the players outside of Drew Timme on this team and how they progress throughout the year, play next to him?
Yeah, that's always been a staple of the program. Is people see a player over the years like Ben Gregg that maybe didn't play as much, but he's going to practice every day, and look who he's playing against. And then this year, early on in the season, I think it was at the PK Invitational, he kind of busted out in a few games, and he's a player, man. But that's happened with players. Like, they evolve as players. You might be a role player coming in. Julian Straw there plays, I don't want to say behind Corey Kispert, but in a lesser role than Corey, and he works on his game, and their practices are every bit as competitive, if not more so, than the game. So they're doing that every day and kind of developing out of the public eye, and then you see them, develop into All-America caliber players. So that's happened over the years here, and it's not a surprise. Like, Mark and his staff do such a great job with player development, and even when a particular player might not be playing as much early, they're able to get them to understand that keep plugging, like your success is coming, and then when they realize that success, it's a neat story.
How much does the tough non-conference schedule and the improved WCC help Gonzaga for a tournament that's coming up, where it doesn't seem like there's like a clear-cut top team this year?
I mean, I think it helps a lot. Gonzaga's proven they can beat anybody. I mean, they beat Alabama, they beat Kentucky. Their non-conference schedule is a gauntlet. So they're fully prepared by the time they get to the tournament, and it's proven that's with their tournament success that there's nothing in their schedule, the conference or anything, that's been an impediment to them winning in the tournament. This year's team is a little bit different. They may not have the same kind of rim protection they've had in some past years, and may not be quite as good defensively as they've been, but offensively they're fantastic. And I know this. You talk to any coach around the country and say, tell me a team you wouldn't want to play in the tournament, and Gonzaga would be one of the, if not the first team mentioned, right in the top tier.
Jay, you're talking about a little bit with, NIL and players getting paid and all that. What does that do for smaller schools, kind of like Gonzaga? Does that force them in a spot of, we've heard the rumors of the Big 12, if that's a thing they have to do essentially because of that changing landscape in college basketball?
I don't think the changes in college sports over the last several years automatically means that Gonzaga needs to do something, make a move. I mean, I think Gonzaga is in a position of strength in the West Coast Conference, that you can stay in the West Coast Conference and the success rate has been proven, and I don't think that's going to change. If there's something attractive out there that's a better value proposition comes along and pulls you away from this, that's fine. But I think everything's been handled really intelligently, that if there's interest somewhere, you kick the tires on it and you listen to what's available. In today's landscape, I think you have to do that. Just as in all of our jobs, if someone else came and offered you a great job, you wouldn't automatically say, no, I'm happy here, which might be your initial reaction. You'd consider it. And you consider every aspect of it, of moving your family, of the job itself, of the money. All these different things are aspects of it, and I think it's a very similar decision for Gonzaga. There's nothing Gonzaga has to do that's being forced. It would just be, hey, if there's something better that puts us in the best possible position to have the best program, you consider it. And I think that's really smart.
Jay, Gonzaga did a great job on Logan Johnson for a large portion of that game in Moraga, and then Hayden kind of took over late. What are some things they could do differently to win tomorrow's game?
I don't know that Gonzaga has to do anything differently against St. Mary's to be successful. You just have to stick to your game plan and do it a little bit better, do it harder and better. I mean, that was an overtime game, so Gonzaga was right there to win it in regulation, and could have easily won it. Not easily, but could have won it. Nothing is easy against St. Mary's. But, Logan Johnson's coming off another 29-point game. He's had some big games. He's such a good driver, and he's a man out there. So they have players that are really capable at every position, and very much they play a different style, but they're similar to Gonzaga, and their personnel is really good, and they're hard to play against and hard to beat. But over the years, and this year included, I think Gonzaga's shown that they don't shy away from challenges. They go at them head on. So that's what makes this game really attractive. Is you're going to see a heavyweight fight, and it's going to be fun. It may not be fun to play in. It's going to be fun to watch.
We've seen a shift in play style this year with kind of a return of the big man. Ashibwe in Kentucky, who came back, was match player of the year this year. Edie turned into a monster this year. Timmy coming back. How do you think, you made a big man, played at Duke for 4 years with Fair, in playing in this era with these bigs?
I'm much happier having played when I did. I think it's way harder now to be a big guy than it was when I played. You know, when I played, the job was beat your guy down the floor, meet him at the free throw line, and fight him for their post position. Now you're out, especially for guys like Drew Timme and Ben Gray, you name it, the big guys here. They've got to guard 3 or 4 ball screens per possession, and you're being moved all over the floor. When that wasn't the case when I played. I never guarded a ball screen in college. That was when I was a pro. Never guarded a ball screen in college, and I think it's so much harder to be a big guy now. It's less about low post play than it used to be. You know, and even Drew Timme, he's not just going to go down to the low block and set up. You know, he does a lot of his stuff on the move, so he's out on the perimeter setting the ball screen and rolling inside, short rolling, things like that. So it's more complicated now, and there's more, you know, there's still only 5 fouls, but there are a myriad more opportunities to pick up fouls as a player, as a big guy now than there used to be.
You mentioned Drew Timme. By the time he hangs it up in college, he'll be likely Gonzaga's leading scorer, top 10 in WCC scoring all time, multi-time All-American, and multiple deep tournament runs. What do you make of his college career?
It's been remarkable. You know, I think Drew's one of the best players in Gonzaga history, and that's saying something, because look at the litany of All-Americans that Mark Few has had, and going all the way back to when I played when John Stockton was here. There have been great players here. So to have your name at the top of these lists, that's an amazing accomplishment. But given all of Drew's success, he still hasn't done 94 feet yet, so it's an incomplete career. And I really feel for him. I can understand why he cries himself to sleep after not having that kind of honor.
Who was a better law school, Duke or Gonzaga?
I don't know much about Gonzaga's law school, but given that Duke Law School let me in, that's a diminishing. That diminished the reputation of the school. So Gonzaga probably is just for that fact alone that they did admit me into law school. That it's got to be a better school.
I don't know if any Gonzaga law grads ever had a court case involving Barney the dinosaur, though.
That's a failing. Yeah, that's a failing. Well, thank you guys.